Hey guys, Solomon here. Hope you're having a great day. Look, today's video, I'm going through some of my favorite opening options for white. This is not me saying that these openings are superior to the ones that you may play yourself. But I just thought I'd throw these openings out there. Some of you may have not seen them before, or maybe some of you guys want to try these out and just see how you do. As you're going to see, I'm a big fan of underplayed rare opening options. I mean, when I used to play in tournaments as a kid, I really went with the mainline openings, right? The Sicilian Najdorf. I'd go with, the Scotch Gambit, and I'd do stuff like that. All that being said, I mean, these are great opening systems, but oftentimes the opponent's pretty well prepared for them, right? So nowadays I really like to go with, again, openings that take my opponent out of their comfort zone, oftentimes reaching positions that they've probably never seen before, and therefore giving myself both a psychological advantage and also just giving myself positions that I like to play with. Guys, I think one of the biggest pitfalls that people fall into is looking at the top 10 players in the world, looking at Carlsen, right? Looking at Nakamura and going, well, they never play this, so it must not be good. Well, first off, if you look at a master database, a lot of these, in fact, every single one of these openings I'm about to show you have been played hundreds, if not thousands of times at the master and grandmaster level, even if the top 10 in the world don't go with it, okay? One of the biggest mistakes you can make is simply writing an opening off because the top 10 players in the world aren't playing it against one another, okay? Just because they're not playing it doesn't mean it's not good for us mere mortals, okay? So just to show you guys some of my favorite options. First off, I'm a big fan. Shout out to my guy, Pepper Westwood, okay? Saragossa Opening, all right, C3. I'm a big fan of the system, and I actually think that this is a very underrated response for you Caro Kann players. It trips me out because, when we play E4, the Caro Kann Defense is seen as a great system for black. A lot of GMs rock with it, but then you play this move C3, and it's seen as like a troll opening. I mean, really, we're just playing a Caro Kann, but a tempo up, right? Same idea. I mean, look, if they play E5, we're going to play D4, and we're literally playing a Caro Kann a tempo ahead. And here, if they don't go with E5, okay, we play D4 anyways. In fact, you can just pre-move this if you're playing online. Pre-move both of these guys, and then from this point, okay, just develop. I personally, before playing E3, kind of like to get my bishop out in the open, get it activated, and then play this move of E3 at some point, just forming this pawn pyramid. And, this light-scored bishop is going to be very strong on a square like D3. With C3 and E3 here, it's going to be hard for black to really come up with any ideas to trade it off. And we're just going to continue developing, right? Very simple, very easy game. I mean, if y'all just follow these moves, C3, D4, develop the knight, get the bishop out, form the pawn pyramid, you're going to be in business, right? And that's all you need to know. If black ever decides to take on D4, in that case, okay, we'll just take back with the E-pawn, castling kingside on the way. We got good vision on the king side of the board, a knight staring at E5. I think a rook would be well placed on E1, and we're just playing chess, right? It gives us a solid game here. Besides the Saragossa Opening, I'm also a big fan of 1B3. Okay, one of my one of my private students, chess students, plays this, and he does pretty well with it. The Larsen's Opening / Nimzowitsch Larsen attack. Really what we're trying to do here, guys, is just fianchetto our bishop, right? And oftentimes what happens here is the opponent playing this move of E5. They're like, okay, you want to give me the center, I'm going to take it. But now we get an Owen's Defense a tempo ahead. If you don't know what the Owen's Defense is, it's when we play E4 and black plays B6 and bishop B7, giving us the center, but going after that center for the rest of this game. Okay, now, in this situation, the roles are reversed, and we actually have that same system, but a tempo up, right? And what we want here as white is for black to actually play knight C6 and then take full control of the center of the board. This is a little bit, counter what you usually hear about, take control of the center, because we're giving them the center, but now we're going to make these pawns targets, specifically the pawn on E5. So in this scenario, we can play bishop B5, pin this knight to the king on E8. Notice, if black just makes a move, we're going to say thank you for the pawn, because this knight literally can't move, okay? And if black defends it with the bishop, there's some things you can do. I think knight F3 is a good option here, but I'm a big fan of this F4 idea. Some of you guys may have seen me play this idea from the black side. F4, we're really just trying to pile a ton of pressure on E5 with both our pawn, our bishop. Obviously, one of the key defenders is pinned. Knight F3 on the way. Black's best move here is F6, okay? But if they go with anything else, they may be in quite a bit of trouble here, okay? One of these examples is black just taking on F4. I can't tell you how often I see the opponent do something like this, and it looks good because black has queen H4 with check on the way. But notice, y'all, this bishop flies out of nowhere, right? We simply take on G7, and now if we do see a check, okay, we just move the king over. The big thing that you got to be careful of in this specific line is the fact that black can just take on E3, right? Now they're threatening a mate, so don't just pre-move taking the rook, okay? Bad idea. because then you're going to get mated on f2. So in this case, there's no rush. This rook ain't going nowhere. Okay, this rook ain't going nowhere. It's stuck. All right, take the pawn back. If black continues to try to play aggressively, just, you know, play a move like knight f3, queen goes back, and we now simply go up 5 points in material. You know, if we see a move like castling queenside, I just encourage you guys to just trade down, right? Take the knight, damage black's pawn structure, maybe, you know, get this bishop out of there. We don't want to get it trapped. All that being said, white is completely winning in this line if, you know, in the Larsen's attack, if black does end up taking that f4 pawn. Going back to the first move here, we'll go back to b3. And look, I mean, those are two of my favorite options as of late. You know, kind of the Saragossa Opening, Carol Khan up a tempo, as well as this Nimzowitsch Larsen attack with bishop b2. I'm an avid Owens defense player, so I really like this system. But you know me, guys, I gotta add one more. I gotta add one more little off-key move, g3. Okay, King's Fianchetto Opening. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you will know exactly what I'm trying to get into right now. The Hippo, it's a cheat code. Okay, great system. Fianchettoing both of our bishops, really putting 6 of our pawns on the 3rd rank. But, you know, it's a brick wall. It's hard for the opponent to know what to do against this. If they ever break in the center, we'll block it up. If they ever break this way, we'll lock it up. A4, B4 is ready to go. H4, G4. It's just hard for black to break through, right? And we're going to have to be very patient in a position like this. I personally kind of like knight f3, right? Just attacking this pawn on e5. Whole idea being, if you push this pawn, we have multiple ideas. I think the computer actually likes taking it. I myself side more with just playing a move like knight d4, knight fd4. If we see a move like d4, lock it up with e4, bishop d6. You know, in that case, we're just going to continue with a move like knight g5. And I mean, again, look, I mean, let's say black plays d4, again, lock it up in the center. But notice now, black has spent all this time pushing their pawns in the center, trying to lock it up. But in return, they've kind of run out of pawn breaks, right? You know, again, I mean, c4 is never going to happen. Okay. I mean, it's just, we have 2 pawns clamping down on that square. You know, we have f4 on the way. Move like knight g5 is good. g4 is a good idea. Trying to get a grip on that light f5 square. You know, potentially knight could jump in there. In this scenario, if a move like a4, again, lock it down. Black here is running out of options. And as white, we're just going to kind of try to slowly improve the positioning of our pieces. So, okay, how to throw the Hippo in there. I know usually it's played as black, but you can play it as white. Why not? And then finally, so those are a few different options, you know, the Larsen, Saragossa, and the Hippo with G3. But let's face it, I'm an E4 player. Okay, I've been an E4 player since I was about 7 years old. I am now 24. Okay, so I'm getting up there. All right. But okay, what are some of my favorite systems in E4? I'm gonna cover 2 systems here. One of my favorites against E5 and one of my favorites against C5. Okay, so let's first take a look at E5. In this scenario, I mean, there's a lot of great moves here. Vienna game's awesome. Looking to fianchetto this bishop. You could also play the Vienna and then put a bishop on C4, depending on what black plays. But I usually go with knight f3. And then here again, there's a lot of great systems. As a kid, I played the Scotch Gambit a lot, but I had great success with it. But once I hit about 1600 USCF, 1700 USCF, every single person I played knew the main line, right? Up until that point, when I was playing 1200s, 1300s, I mean, I was actually one time I won a game in 8 moves against a 1400. I checkmated a 1400 in 8 moves with this Scotch Gambit. So it's strong. You know, and the Scotch Gambit is really, for you guys that don't know, we're just playing d4. And then if they take, we're playing bishop c4, right? And we're looking to play c3, gain an advantage in development, queen b3 ideas, queen d5 ideas, castle kingside. As you guys can see, we are 1 step away. They are 1, 2, 3 steps away. So this king's going to be a big target. All that being said, though, once I did hit that higher level, they all knew the main line, and black equalizes pretty easily. Okay, so I don't really go with that anymore. You know, the Italian game is still a great option. Okay, I'm a big fan of this one. By the way, all these openings I'm going to leave in the description. That way, if you guys want to check any of them out, I have a video on it, and you guys can learn kind of the ideas. This is more just an introduction to give you guys some openings that may have not been on your radar. But yeah, I mean, bishop c4 is a good move with the Italian game. I'm a big fan of that. You can get into the fried liver even with knight g5 potentially. But recently, you know, a lot of you guys actually subbed to this channel because of this video. Right as of now, it's my #1 viewed video, the Ponziani Opening. Okay, c3, underrated system. It's crazy. I've been playing chess my whole life, right? I mean, I played from 7 to, you know, I stopped playing in tournaments around 13 or 14. I didn't quite hit National Master. I think my peak rating was 2163 USCF. But guys, a bunch of these openings I never even heard of. I had never heard of the Ponziani Opening. I have literally never heard of the Hippo, which is crazy because now I love it. But okay, c3, guys, here's the idea. We're wanting to play d4. Most of the moves here black plays, we're going to play d4. Bishop c5, d4, right? Knight f6, d4. Right, there's a lot of moves that we're going to play d4 against. Bishop e7, g6, etc., etc. But you know, there's this option of d5 that black goes with quite a bit. You know, and it makes sense. Black's just trying to advance in the center. But here, guys, we're not going to take on d5 because then that just allows black to centralize their queen. They're going to play bishop g4, castle queenside. They have the space advantage. We're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to play this move of queen a4. And the textbook move here is actually f6. Okay, f6. Whole idea being that we're actually threatening to take this pawn on e5, right? As this knight is pinned. Bishop d7 is also a good option, but I don't see this move very often, probably because they're worried about losing their pawn on d5. One option that I do see quite a bit is actually, even at my level, is black taking this pawn. But yeah, now we simply take off this pawn on e5, and okay, we're sitting in material, but we have a ton of pressure on that knight, and we're putting pressure on e4. So this knight can't move. We're threatening to just win a pawn by taking the knight off because we have 2 attackers. They only have 1 defender, and we're threatening the pawn on e4. So in this scenario, oftentimes black will play the move of queen d5, right? Trying to hang on to both, right? Trying to do both at once. In this case, we're simply just going to take that knight off the board, though. Notice, by the way, guys, if you take with the queen, take for the queen. Okay. And okay, I mean, if they take with the pawn at this point, we're going to play bishop c4. This queen's going to have to hold on to the pawn on c6. Yeah, it's going to have to go to d6 or g7. Actually, against both of these, we're going to play this move of d3. It looks a little bit weird. Seems like we're just giving up a pawn. But yeah, black's not going to be able to hold on to this pawn on d3 for very long because we're castling and we're going to be putting a ton of pressure on it. And we also just want to develop our pieces. This pawn's actually backwards on d2, and it's considered backwards because it cannot move without being captured, and it doesn't have support from either of these pawns, right? So this pawn isn't backwards because it has support from g2, but this pawn is backwards because we can't move it without it being captured by a pawn, and it has no pawn support. And on top of that, if we keep this pawn on d2, I mean, on top of d3 being really weak, you know, black eventually, you know, maybe trying to get in there, it's really just blocking our bishop from developing, right? And if our bishop's blocked, then our rook's blocked, and at the same time, our knight's pretty blocked unless we go to a3. So d3, very important here. If you do play the Ponziani, I highly recommend you memorize this line. And here's the thing. Okay, I mean, if black takes, we don't really care. We're going to castle kingside. They're up a pawn, but it's not going to last very long. In fact, in this position, we can play bishop f4. Okay, if this queen runs back, we're just going to continue developing. You know, a rook on e1 would be really good. Put a rook on d1, put pressure on d3. And just look at black's pawn structure. Yes, this is a passed pawn, but they're not going to be able to hold on to it again. And they also have, you know, isolated and double isolated pawns here, especially c6 is very weak. And, you know, that kind of shows itself here because we're playing bishop f4 with tempo against the queen. If you run back, this queen's barely holding on to these pawns. And if you take this bishop, we now have bishop takes f7 with check. And we say thank you for the queen. Okay, so this is one of the many traps in the Ponziani. I made a video on the top 4 traps, so I'll also leave a link to that in the description if you want to check that out. This is one of them. But yeah, the Ponziani is a great option. And then I thought I'd finish out this video by covering what I think is the most underrated opening in all of chess. Okay, I really do. I really think that this opening doesn't get the credit it deserves, and I think that you know, white scores very well with it. I mean, even if you just look on chess.com, lead chess, white does very well with this opening. It's a cheat code against the Sicilian defense. You know, if I play the Sicilian, I still, you know, I used to, like I said, and I still do quite a bit. And if I saw this move of a3, I would not be too happy about it. Okay, a3, the delayed wing gambit. Okay, man, many of you are probably laughing thinking that this is stupid, okay? But trust me, guys, there's a ton of firepower behind this opening if we play b4 and if black ends up accepting the gambit, okay? There's two ways black can do this, either playing knight c6, in which case they're going to win the pawn on b4 with the knight, or playing e6 and then simply capturing and then capturing in with the bishop. By the way, the best line for black is actually g6. This is the one move that I hate playing against, okay? With this, I recommend knight c3, bishop c4, and d3. I believe a subscriber told me Gotham Chess, said that this was a good line. I've seen Magnus Carlsen play it, so if Carlsen's playing it against a top GM player, it can't be that bad, unless, of course, he's trolling. But all that being said, my favorite line here is knight c6, and this is probably the move that I see the most, okay? And it seems very logical. Black's developing their minor piece. They're going to put it on c6 probably anyways at some point, and they're putting pressure on b4. But guys, at this point in the game, we are very happy if black ends up taking this pawn. I'd say 90% of the time black does take on b4. If they don't, we're going to play b5, and we're just going to start kicking that knight around like crazy. Notice a6 doesn't do anything, because if they take on b5, we just say thank you for the rook on a8, right? This rook is very active, and it's easy for black to forget that. But again, if they do take, we're happy about this because we're going to play c3 and d4. We have, we're down a pawn, but we have full control of the center of the board. d5 and f4 on the way. And again, most of the time, black plays this move d5 against us. We're going to take, and then we're going to play knight a3. Y'all, this is the key move, knight a3. What on earth are we doing? Well, y'all, we're trying to get to the square of b5. And with this knight on b5, we're looking to play knight c7 with check. Okay, this was first introduced to me by the Ginger GM, Simon Williams. And this is in his own words, this position is almost winning for white. If you plug it into a computer program, it's going to give you a slight advantage for black. But black has to play this nearly flawlessly to hang on. Okay. I've wiped out multiple 2200 rated players with this opening within the first 10 to 15 moves. Okay. it's that good. We're looking to play knight b5. I do want to mention, sometimes I see this move a6. This doesn't fix anything, guys. This doesn't stop knight b5. In this position, knight c4 is also a great option, looking to just jump our knight to b6 and attack all these freaking pieces. But knight b5 is also playable, right? And this doesn't actually stop this, right? Because if they do take, we just, again, say thank you for the rook, right? So a6 doesn't stop this knight from coming in, and there's actually nothing black can do to stop it, right? Unless, of course, they want to give up the rook. So going back, there's a lot of moves that I'll run into. Sometimes I'll see e5 quite a bit, which is completely losing for black. I also see this move of knight f6, in which case I just play knight b5, right? Looking to play knight c7 check. And once this queen drops back, one of the key ideas is playing d5. Now, bishop f4 in this scenario, it doesn't actually work because of knight d5, and the bishop's attacked and the square is defended. I think white still has a playable game there, but I think much better is actually playing d5 right now, trying to kick this knight out. First off, if knight e5, then bishop f4 works because we're attacking this knight. If you want to take on d5, we're just going to take the knight off. And if this knight moves, then we're going to have knight c7 check with bishop b5 on the way. Crushing game for white. So again, knight e5, bishop f4. If this knight moves, the knight jumps into c7. And here, if many are probably wondering, okay, what happens if black takes? Well, first off, if black takes with the queen, knight c7 check, powerhouse fork, king, rook, queen. One of them's going to drop. And here, if the move of knight takes d5 is played, we're going to play queen takes d5. We're giving up the queen, but only for about half a second, because we have knight c7 with check. Take the queen off. Now we're just up a pawn. This king cannot move. We have knight b6 ideas in the air. Again, this rook's going to be forced to move. And, okay, this is one of the many traps in this delayed win gambit system. We're up a pawn, and black really has nothing to show for it. So, y'all, those are really, some of the openings that I've been enjoying lately, right? The Hippo, Saragossa, Larsen's opening, Ponziani is a great option as well in the delayed win gambit. Let me know what are your favorite openings, right? Let me know down in the comment section below what your go-to openings are. Let me know, if you try these out, and if you have any questions on what to do with these. I've had students pick up these openings, right? I've had students play the Ponziani. I've had students play, on YouTube. I've had a lot of Ponziani players. I've had a private student go with the delayed win gambit, and he's had great success with it against a Sicilian. Most Sicilian, what Sicilian player is studying for A3, right? Who's doing that? I play the Sicilian, and I still haven't studied for it, partly because I never see it, But also, it's just like, why would you study for 2a3? It looks crazy, but again, we're looking to play b4, give up a pawn, and in return, gain a massive master center with tempo. So again, y'all, thanks for watching today's video. Let me know down in the comment section below what other openings you'd like to see. And as always, I'm wishing you guys a great day. Keep it real. Peace.